welcome. We spend a lot of time talking about doctors and technology, but today we're going to talk about the one thing that holds it all together, or can make it all fall apart, the hospital building itself. We're going to break down the biggest, costliest, and sometimes most dangerous mistakes in hospital design, and most importantly, talk about how to get it right.
And this quote right here really says it all. You have to understand the physical space of a hospital isn't just a box where medicine happens. Nope, it's an active part of the healing process. And when that design is off, it creates friction that affects literally everyone and everything inside.
So, how are we going to tackle this? Well, we've broken it down into 5 key areas where things tend to go wrong. We'll start with layouts that create chaos, then look at surfaces that can actually make people sick. After that, we'll cover designs that burn out staff, buildings that can't change with the times, and finally, the mistake of buying equipment without thinking about the long game.
All right, let's jump into the first huge mistake, the physical flow of the hospital. You see, when a layout is inefficient, it's not just about wasting a few steps here and there. It can actually delay life-saving care.
So, let me ask you this. In a place where every single second matters, what do you think the biggest bottleneck is? It's often something so simple we overlook it. The physical path a patient or a nurse has to take to get from point A to point B. And this slide shows you exactly what I'm talking about. It's all about a concept called departmental adjacency. Look at the left side. This is what happens in a poorly planned hospital. A patient comes into the ER, they need a scan, but radiology is halfway across the campus. That long trip, that means a delayed diagnosis. But now, look at the right. A smart design puts those two departments right next to each other. The result is just so clear. Faster diagnoses, faster treatment, and way better outcomes for the patient. You have to realize the floor plan itself is basically a medical instrument.
Okay, next up is a danger that is literally everywhere in a hospital, all around us, but we hardly ever think about it. I'm talking about the surfaces of furniture and fixtures. And if you get this wrong, you're basically creating a breeding ground for infection.
Now, what's so fascinating here is that this isn't just about picking something that looks clean. No, these are official government guidelines. Infection control is a hard science, and that science extends to every single chair, every countertop, every cart. The materials you choose have to be an active player in your fight against infection.
So what's the secret? Well, it really boils down to 3 simple rules you absolutely cannot break. First, surfaces have to be non-porous. That means no materials like untreated wood or leather that can soak up fluids and hide germs. Second, they've got to be seamless or have specially reinforced seams, because any little crack can become a home for bacteria. And third, they have to be tough enough to handle being wiped down constantly with powerful hospital-grade disinfectants without falling apart.
So we've talked about surfaces that can harm patients. Now let's talk about designs that harm the staff. This is all about the physical beating that healthcare workers take day in and day out from poorly designed spaces and equipment.
Just look at this number for a second. 1.8 tons. What on earth could that possibly be in a hospital? That's how much weight the average nurse lifts, pushes, or pulls in a single shift. I mean, it's just staggering. Now imagine doing all that work at a desk that's the wrong height, or with a computer cart that fights you every step of the way. This isn't just about being a little uncomfortable. This is what leads to career-ending injuries, burnout, and why so many great nurses leave the profession. Good ergonomic design? It's not a luxury. It's a staff retention strategy. Okay, our 4th big mistake is all about short-sightedness. It's this trap of building a hospital that's absolutely perfect on the day it opens, but is completely unprepared for what the community is going to need 5 or 10 years from now. So how do you avoid that trap? Well, you plan for the future from day one. This table shows you how much extra capacity you should build into your core systems right from the start. Just look at data and communications. You build in 100% extra capacity. Why? Because you know technology is going to change in ways we can't even predict. Spending a bit more upfront to oversize these systems saves you a fortune compared to ripping open walls to upgrade them later. And this kind of forward thinking applies to the physical space too. Take something called shell space. That's basically just building the outer structure of a new wing but leaving it unfinished inside. It's ready to go when you need it. And as you can see here, these strategies might cost a little more at the beginning, but the long-term savings are absolutely massive. The whole point is to plan for growth before you even break ground. And that brings us to our final mistake. This is what happens when a hospital treats buying critical equipment like it's just a shopping trip. They focus only on the price tag and completely forget to think about building a real long-term partnership with their supplier. So how do you do it right? You have to vet your suppliers like they're going to be a true partner.
This three-step process is a fantastic way to do it. First, check out their experience and reputation. Have they been doing this for a while? Who else trusts them? Second, confirm their quality and compliance. Are their products properly certified? Are they built to last? And finally, you have to look at their after-sales support. Are they going to be there for you with installation, training, and spare parts down the road?
You know, this really all boils down to a huge shift in mindset. Smart hospitals get that the sticker price is just the tip of the iceberg. The real cost, the maintenance, the repairs, the downtime when something breaks, that's all hidden. A cheap bed that breaks down in 2 years and has no available spare parts is way more expensive than a quality bed that lasts for a decade. It's about investing in value over the entire life of the equipment.
So I want to leave you with this question, because it really gets to the core of everything we've talked about today. The most successful projects get this one thing right. They understand they're not just putting up a building. They are designing a complex, interconnected system with one single purpose: to help people heal. And every choice, from the layout of the hallways to the chairs in the waiting room, has a vital role to play in that mission. Thanks so much for joining me.